I am so excited about having Dr. Carter, back. Parental alienation. Let's kind of define that and the other terms that you and I talked about. So why don't you start that off there, and I'll chime in.
Well, a certain percentage of parents who are post-divorce who make it their task to train the children to hate the other parent in the same way they do. Now, they won't say it like that, but that's the net result. And, for example, I've had cases where, let's suppose you have a 13-year-old child that's visiting dad,
Right.
and then dad gives that child a gift. And so the child goes back to mom's house, and the gift is confiscated. It's
Right.
like, we don't need that here, or you already have one of those, and little things like that. Or these days, things like having a cell phone, or how
Right.
much time you spend on the computer, and
Exactly.
there's no effort whatsoever to coordinate. It's like, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the way it's supposed to be, and if that other parent won't coordinate with me, then they're an idiot, and you need to know how terrible they are, and it's terribly devastating, because the only person in that equation that's really going to be damaged is not mom, and it's not dad. It's going to be the kid.
Yeah. Let's talk about, what do we do? As much as the problem is horrendously difficult, there are solutions. There might not be cures and complete fixes. I wish there was a way to give a pill to a narcissist who then will actually have empathy and be reasonable. But unless
Wouldn't that be
you
nice?
know, But so, what is your perspective or point of view on the intervention level of this problem?
Well, let's remind ourselves, the best way to teach anything is via modeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's suppose you have that narcissistic parent who does make snarky comments, or kind of coils up when the other parent is mentioned.
Yeah.
If you're trying to present the healthier alternative, what you want to do is, first you want to ask, how do I come across?
Right.
Do I come across as controlling or threatened or
Right.
defensive
Yeah.
or angry? Or am I able to project a sense of peace or confidence? And
Right.
it's not phony. It's like, I really do believe in the legitimacy of me being me. And
Right.
so your demeanor is by far and away the number one tool that you have to use to counteract the narcissistic alienation.
Right.
And then beyond that, I do think, and you have to be real delicate about this, I do think that it's fair for that healthy parent to sit down with the kids and talk, at whatever age level they are, about the differences between yourself and the other parent.
Right.
And for example, let's suppose that you're a mother, and the father, as you kind of mentioned, is real bossy and overbearing, and it's my way or the highway. Well,
Right.
that mother who's trying to present the healthier alternative can say something like, there are times when your dad and I don't agree. And well, that's part of the reason that we got divorced. Why don't we just agree between you and me, when we're talking with each other, let's put a high premium on listening to one
Yeah.
another. And I want to hear what you have to say, and I hope you can hear what I have to say. At your dad's house, it may be a little bit different, but that's the way I want to manage it with you. And you're trying to present yourself as other without being too disparaging to the other parent. You're just simply
Right.
saying, we just do things differently here. And so, of course, as they age, you can be a little bit more particular about what your values and principles are. But I think you want to speak up, but in such a way that doesn't have insult
Right.
attached to it.
So, what I want to add to that is, it's another perspective that matches up with yours. I was telling you, I love to come up with terms. And one of the terms that is essential to my self-love recovery treatment program is to build predictive awareness.
Love it.
Before you do anything like talk about a divorce, talk about the separation, you have to first know, what is a SLD? What is a codependent? Why have you fallen susceptible? Where does it come from? Everything that is about self-responsibility. And then,
Yes.
what is the narcissist? And then, of course, the human magnet syndrome, which is my thesis for my book. Why did you stay together and why did you lose this, and et cetera? Then to be able to predict how will this play out? Because if we know enough, we can predict it. Then execute preliminary stages so that when you do say, I want a divorce, the children have either been unknowingly or knowingly prepped or primed so that you have a fighting chance. Because even
Yeah.
with everything they know and everything they can predict and all of the advanced preparations, which one of them could be, as you said, talking with the children, and it still is a crapshoot. But if we've done our job well with predictive awareness, we'll predict that. And so what I want to say, and then I want to turn it back over to you, is that before you consider doing anything that Les says or anything that I say, is do the homework so you can figure out what to do strategically, because once you hit that storm, the shit hits the fan.
Well, a favorite phrase of mine is knowledge is power. That's what I'm hearing you
Yes.
say.
Yes.
You want to have enough of an insight into the whole pattern of narcissism. And one of the things I like to do on my YouTube channel is I like to talk about all sorts of nuances
Right.
and hidden kinds of aspects of narcissism that you might not see right on the surface. And so it's necessary for you to know what you're dealing with. And then, at least for me, my thing is, so that being the case, if I can see it, what would be my better alternative?
Right.
As a simple illustration, narcissists are known for being highly controlling. And that's part of that codependent self-love
Yeah. Yeah.
deficiency. If I can control you, then I win. Well, the opposite of that is to allow space for free choice, at least between me and that child. I'll ask the child questions. Well, what do you think?
Mhm.
Or what makes sense to you? Or why don't we brainstorm and take a look at the options, the good and the bad options, and figure out what the consequences of each of those would be? And so you can lean into that. Or another thing, narcissism is known as having a lack of empathy. Okay, my better alternative is I want you to know that when you're in my presence, I really want to know who you are from your vantage point. And even if you don't make sense to me, well, you make sense to yourself right now. So tell me how you arrived at that, or talk to me about what led you to that conclusion, or wow, that's more powerful than I thought. Tell me more. And so you want to just have an awareness of what the themes of narcissism are so that you can go into the modeling of the cleaner alternatives. That's how you, if possible, break some of the power of that unhealthy
Yes.
parenting on
Absolutely.
the other side. And it's the modeling that I mentioned a few minutes ago.
And so add to the modeling is to move from victim, co-conspirator. See, one of the things that
Yes.
I do differently than a lot of my colleagues out on the internet is I, with empathy and support and firsthand knowledge, hold the SLDs responsible, even though they're victims also, because they gave up power. But I don't do that to shame them, but I do that to help them understand what we need to change so that they can forgive themselves.
You may be a victim, but you don't have to be the victim, capital T, capital V.
Oh,
Uh,
explain that
so,
more. That sounds profound. Just
well, let's suppose that you were in a marriage and
yeah,
the narcissist was just brutal.
yeah,
Well, you were victimized.
right.
So you're a victim. When I say you're the victim, well, it becomes your identity. And it's
Ah,
like, okay, my victimization is not going to be everything that I relate to. I'm still a decent person. I'm still somebody who has some positive characteristics. I have, a pleasantness that I can share. And so I have some initiatives that I can operate with. And what happened to me in that narcissistic relationship isn't the sum total about who I am.
right. That's something for me to think about. But before you said that and caught my interest, I was going to say, as a part of my predictive awareness process or preparing for the storm, is to understand if the insidious nature of gaslighting, manipulation, and what we've talked about before is already set, and the kids have drank the poison, they're brainwashed, as difficult as it is, but to help my client understand when you have to stop. And again, this might seem counterproductive, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. When you have to stop hoping to convince the child and be more assertive to do things that are going to upset the child and in present time could make you believe that you are hurting yourself. You have to battle the fear that your child's going to hate you, but knowing that this child, and like a lot of healthy parents, knowing that you can punish a child and they can, especially a teenager, and they might say, I don't love you and I hate you, but know that the next day they're going to smile and forget about it. But in a larger sense, know that this bad guy position that you're being labeled it could be the best thing that you've done, even if it means the child won't talk to you.
Taking an unpopular.
Exactly.
My presumption is that I don't take my cues from a narcissistic person. That person does not set my pace. And kind of what you were suggesting there with respect to the way you talk to the kids,
Yeah.
it's like what I'm going to do is I'm going to try as best I can to speak my truth. I'm going to show you by illustration, by example and modeling what cleanness looks like. And when we disagree, notice my tone of voice. I'm not going to be harsh. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to be condescending, but I can have calm firmness. And I'm going to do all that I know to present the better alternative. And then as the child is older, whether we're talking about 15 or 28 or 37, then we'll expand our discussions.
The mindset that you said, I have a similar one, and I do this exercise. I did it when my son was 8 or 9, is I pretended that he's 30. He's in therapy because by time 30, they're going to sort through this stuff. What is he going to talk about in therapy about his childhood? And that exercise.
What kind of material am I giving that kid to work with?
Yeah. So that exercise puts you into a frame of mind where you're imagining the child and a grown adult. And it always has produced confidence for me that he might not agree with what I'm doing. He might not recognize what I'm doing. But at age 30, when he is going to talk,
that 30-year-old self may look back.
Mother, he's going to talk about, well, Dad. And that always kept me grounded in when I felt insecure.
Love it.
So you were saying, I just didn't want to forget that. So sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. And basically what I'm saying is the earlier you can establish yourself as being a model of decency, then as you're suggesting, as the years go by, your credibility rating remains much higher.
I wish I knew this more years ago, but I asked anyone who's listening, who's experiencing these problems, or if they're using predictive awareness, knows it's going to happen, is to just trust that this might be heretical and everyone's going to go, what? But nothing that Les or I am teaching you will work if your foundation is that of self-love deficiency or self-love deficit disorder that's filled with core shame, terrified of pathological loneliness, has this unbearable addiction to a relationship, which means it glues you to this. And that all of what we have said and want to say requires you to heal yourself. And using the airplane analogy is, if you're flying on a plane, they say, put the mask on yourself first for your children, because you're no good if you should pass out. Well, everything that we want to say and more, believe us, or at least think about it. Because
to me, that's a good way to end here today, because I think you're so spot on. And you've got to be coming from your own place of inner peace.
Yes.
And none of us have perfectly arrived at that, by the way, but kids know.
Yes.
If you're at least working on it, and kids can respect it. And so spot on.
Yeah. And so if one of the parent is a narcissist, so that makes us, then if we mess up, have our moments of rationality, we can say we're sorry, hug, do whatever we do. And if we did our jobs right, the kids will forgive us. So
Yeah.
there's plenty of room for making mistakes, because if you love yourself and you are, as you said brilliantly, present as this role model, that could be the most potent defense to parental alienation.
Yeah.
So I have so many more ideas for the next topic, but I'd like to suggest, at least for my community, is to write in your comments about what should we talk about next.
We'll continue with this because, you know, one of the things that makes me feel good about the kind of work that I do is if I know that I've been at least a party to helping individuals see the patterns in the generational patterns, and then be the one to break it. And
Right.
so that's what we're talking about here.
Don't stop what you're doing. You are the
Yep.
real thing. And to anyone listening or watching this, go to YouTube, go to his podcast. But he also has a host of books. And if you think his wisdom and his knowledge is something to admire, check those books out. For any of you guys that are just getting to know me, all of my stuff, including my book, my seminar trainings, and other offerings, can be seen at selfloverecovery.com, or send us an
Yeah.
email at help@selfloverecovery.com. Thank you, doctor.
Ross, thanks for having me. And we're going to do it again. Okay.
Yeah.
We got lots more to say.